So today I'm going to show you how to make flatbread. Flatbread's really, you can use flatbread for so many different dinners you can have flatbread with. And it's really not so hard to make. It doesn't take that long. It's just a few ingredients. And what we're going to do is tonight we're having tteokbokkeumtang. It's a Korean spicy chicken dish. And we like to have flatbread with it. So the ingredients for the flatbread are flour and sugar. Of course we use yeast. It's a yeast-based bread. Oil and water. So I always use a kettle. So, and I just boiled it. Yeah, and it's exactly at 120 degrees. So now it's absolutely perfect. So I can put in my water, and then I'll add my sugar, and now I can add my yeast. And this recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of yeast, so I can put that in. I gotta be really careful with the yeast nowadays. I don't know if you know, but it's hard to find yeast. So if you can find it, get it in as big a package as you can, and it keeps really well in the freezer. You can keep yeast for almost forever, as long as you keep it in a nice sealed container and in the freezer. It'll last for a long time. So I buy my yeast wholesale. It's a fraction of the price. You can get it wholesale. I get mine through Costco, but any wholesaler is really inexpensive. And then I like to mix the yeast in. So once you put your yeast in, you wait for about 5 minutes until it proofs. Proof means that it starts to bubble, starts to get all frothy. And that means your yeast is active. And if it doesn't get frothy, you just got to throw away what you got because the bread depends on the yeast being active. Okay, now the yeast and the water and the sugar is all set. The yeast is all frothy. Now you can put in, next thing to put in is the milk. For this recipe, it's best if the milk is warm, same temperature as the water. So ideally 110 degrees Fahrenheit and cooler than 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll put in the milk, warm milk. Then I put in 1 tablespoon of oil and 6 cups of flour and let the stand mixer do its magic. That's all needed. Get the dough hook out here. So always use a dough hook when you're kneading bread in your stand mixer. If you're doing this by hand, it's going to take a lot longer. So stand mixer is really the way to go. And then it forms a really nice. This dough here should be flatbread is kind of sticky without sticking. Is the way to think about it. Like it feels a little bit sticky in my hands, but it certainly wouldn't stick to anything. If it's too sticky, you're going to have to add a little bit more flour. So but it's a really nice sort of a putty kind of feeling for flatbread. And then we're just going to put it in an oiled bowl. And just make sure you cover your whole flatbread with oil. That way it doesn't dry when it's rising. And then that's it. So I got a nice oil bowl, and I got my dough sitting here. And then if I cover it, and leave it for an hour, it will be ready to be separated into little balls. All right, I'm back onto flatbread. I was working on the tteokbokkeumtang, and that's just about ready. It's boiling away over there, so it's time to get my flatbreads ready. If you're interested in the tteokbokkeumtang, I suggest you go to the video on that, which I'm making right away. So I pull the dough out of the, after it's risen, I pound it down a little bit, and then I'm going to divide them into 16 equal pieces. Some people don't measure them, but I like to measure my my doughs into 16 equal pieces. In little balls. Actually, I'm going to keep them covered as they go. And then they'll rise. Not for very long, though. We only need to let these rise for about 10 minutes more. So actually, by the time we get done and get organized, they'll be ready to go. Okay, so we're just about ready to make the flatbread. I have my 16 doughs all sitting here, and they'll just sit here for just a few more minutes. And I find it's best to make 2 at a time. So what really works well, if you have a thick skillet, they work really well. So we have a couple of these, and we're going to do that. Then as they finish, it's nice to keep them warm so that they'll be nice and warm for dinner. So I just put the oven on at 175 degrees. So I'm going to roll out my dough, but before I do that, I'll just start to warm up the skillets. Cast iron skillets like to be warmed up fairly slowly. So I've got my cast iron skillets warming up slowly, and while I do that, I can start rolling out my dough. Now, once you make these flatbreads, you will never buy anything remotely like it ever again. You can use them for taco night. Well, I mean, not really tacos, but like pita breads and any kind of flatbread you have. So we don't buy flatbread ever anymore. I find they do take quite a bit of flour while you're rolling them out. So just get a rolling pin, and there may be other ways of doing this. I actually I don't claim to be an expert at rolling them out. You may know a trick or two that I don't even know about how to roll them out, but I've got them now. And the key is just to get them, as thin as possible. The thinner you get them, the nicer they'll turn out, and you'll have nice big flatbreads. But these are turning out quite good, actually. That's exactly how they're supposed to look, I think. Now I'm going to show you how to do one or two here, and then I'm going to call in my reinforcements. Usually it's my daughter's job to fry them, so I'm going to call her down and get her to help. In just a minute, I'll just show you how to do one or two. Flatbread, really, these are easy to make, and they taste so good. And this I'm making 16. So, you can usually have them for a couple of days around here. If you're not going to have them all at once and you think 16 is a bit too much, you can absolutely freeze these, and then you just pull them out one at a time, or as many at a time as you need, and you could you throw them in a pan for just a minute, and they'll be perfect. So you can make them and freeze them. Okay, so these two guys are ready. What I'm going to do is you don't have to put too much oil. In fact, I've heard that some people don't use oil when they make it. So, but I use oil. It's better. But you don't need much in each one. Just a little oil in each one. You can use your spatula to move the oil around. If you've got cast iron, don't do that with the regular one. And then we put them in. One. And then they'll just start to cook like this. It's about 2 minutes on each side for these. And I'm going to keep rolling them out, so I need reinforcements to help me to cook them all. So I can tell you the story about how these flatbreads came to be in this house. Is it was taco night and we had no tacos, and so we didn't want to go to the store and buy tacos, and so I said, well, let's try flatbread. So we tried flatbread, and once we tried flatbread, so they weren't really tacos anymore because it's flatbread. But once we tried, that's it. We will never buy anything like this again at the store. It's just too simple and delicious to eat them at home, or to make them the ones that you have at home. Well, I can smell the tteokbokkeum cooking right now as well. So I really suggest that if you haven't done so yet, check out my tteokbokkeum video, and you mix these two together. Okay, so my bread's all made, the flatbread's all ready, and it's keeping warm in the oven back here. And the tteokbokkeum has been simmering and simmering and simmering now, and it is absolutely ready, let me tell you. So we're going to turn that off, and here are the flatbreads. So if you're watching the flatbread video, here's the flatbreads. If you're watching the takbokkumtang video. There's the takbokkumtang. And there they are together. And that is going to be a delicious dinner. So enjoy. Here's a little preview of how flatbreads can be used on taco night.